It's not often that you see something completely different in a genus as well known and well established as Salvia, but I'd like to propose that the plant right here in front of me, Salvia living large Big Sky, is that break, that new refreshing thing that we haven't really seen in a genus like Salvia for a long time. So the traditional breeding methods for perennial salvia has been to make them smaller, more compact, more garden friendly, less prone to flopping over, leaning a lot into the Salvia nemorosa, Salvia pratensis types, two of the most common varieties, species that you can find at the garden center. Salvia living large Big Sky bucks that trend. It goes the opposite way. With this one, we're really into maximizing the size of the plant. Much bigger flowers, over double the size of what you would get out of a Salvia pratensis, and overall just going to be an incredible landscape performer for you in your garden. And for reference, here's Salvia Azure Snow in the Color Spires collection from Proven Winners Perennials. This would be one of your Salvia pratensis types. So as you can see, it's kind of through most of its first bloom. So a little bit earlier to bloom than Salvia living large Big Sky. A little bit more of a compact plant as well in that typical pratensis size. This is going to be more of your front of the border perennial, along with the Salvia nemorosas. Salvia living large Big Sky, that's one that's going to be a little bit more of that middle of the border. That's something you can move back off the front row and still give you a really impactful performance in your landscape. So to illustrate that contrast in size between the salvias, here we have Salvia living large Big Sky. These are 3-year-old plants planted next to Salvia nemorosa, Violet Profusion, also a 3-year-old plant. Some other examples of Salvia nemorosa would be May Night or Caradonna, some of the more popular varieties on the market. And you can see just the dramatic contrast in size between the two plants. So that one is pretty much at its mature size. These another year and they'll be bigger yet even in the garden. The flower scapes on these, you can see just the length that you get. That primary flower spike under the right conditions can get almost 12 inches long, and then there's excellent branching on these plants as well. So the secondary and the side shoots are going to continue to give you color after that primary spike fades. So you do get a long season of color out of these. You can get 3 to 4 weeks, which is pretty good for a salvia. Typically with salvia, you want a nemorosa where you have to trim it back multiple times in order to get 3 or 4 flushes of rebloom in a season. You're not going to get that kind of rebloom out of living large Big Sky. If you trim it back, you'll probably get one decent rebloom out of it, but it's really just going to be that impactful spring performer and then a reliable perennial for the rest of the season. So the Salvia Violet Profusion right here is hanging on, still has some color to it, but typically you're going to see the living large Big Sky variety bloom later in the season, even after some of the Salvia pratensis. It's a little bit of a later bloomer, still has a long period of bloom, but usually you're going to see something like Violet Profusion be all the way bloomed out. If you're shopping at the garden center, the Salvia nemorosas will probably have finished their first flush by the time that living large Big Sky comes into bloom, which makes it really easy to program or really good in your garden because you can get that double pop of color back to back and extend the perennial interest in your garden. The vigor on Salvia living large Big Sky is incredibly impressive. These are 3-year-old plants where you might typically find Salvia nemorosas programmed down into a trade or even a quart pot in the garden center. I would not recommend that with something like Salvia living large Big Sky. These are so vigorous. We recommend planting some of our smaller 72 count liners directly into a 1 gallon or even a 2 gallon container because they are that vigorous that they will fill out that container in as little as 6 to 8 weeks under warm late spring conditions. Like other perennial salvia, this one is really quite hardy, going up zone 4 and zone 3. So if you're in a colder climate, you do get to enjoy this perennial. So like other perennial salvias, it does enjoy a good, well-drained soil. But if you do have heavier soils, such as clay, you can plant this one as well and potentially have it be a good performer for you too. Will be a little bit smaller as those soils are tougher on the plant. Still has a low moisture requirement, so if you're looking to have this in a rock garden or a xeric garden, going to be a good performer, or if you just don't love watering a ton in the dog days of July and August. So have you seen a variety like Salvia, Living Large, Big Sky before? Is it one that you're considering adding to your garden? Let us know in the comments.